Today is Thursday, July 13th. And wait a second, why am I talking to Paul Schwartz? Oh yeah, that's right, because Giants training camp is right around the corner. Paul, how you doing, man?
Yeah, this training camp right around the corner stuff I don't love because training camp right around the corner is a nice way of saying your summer ends. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. The Jets guys have to start the 19th. The Giants, we get a 1 week later, the 26th. Look, that's when it starts, right? I mean, this is a quiet period right now. I mean, supposedly we have contract negotiations and things like that. Guys getting signed. Saquon Barkley negotiating, Quinn Williams from the Jets signing, good stuff. But players are off, coaches are off, GMs last week were off, and personnel guys. So it's a quiet time, but once it hits, it hits. And this is where it starts. This is where it starts. Training camp is very important. I can you can roll your eyes at OTAs and mini camps and things like that, but training camp starts the serious work.
Yeah, and listen, I'm so happy that I got some time here to talk to you about the Giants training camp, a little bit of a preview here. And obviously, if you're paying attention here, watching on YouTube, you can watch Paul on the Blue Rush podcast. He covers the Giants. He's been covering them forever. Paul, I believe this is your 30th training camp for the New York Giants you're going to be covering up this year?
Have you been following me all those 30 years? Have you been counting?
I am 31, Paul. So believe it or not, I actually have been following you.
Okay, so I've been covering Giants, but not longer than you've been alive. So that's good. Yes, in journalism, right? 30 at the end of your story means the end, right? You put 30, that means the end. This is over. It's the end. So hopefully this is not 30 for me. Yeah. My first one was the 1994 season in Madison, Madison, New Jersey. FD campus of FDU under Dan Reeves, his second year. I remember it being a hot as hell training camp. Let's see, FDU, Albany for many, many years, and now at the Giants facility. Used to be 2-a-days, no more 2-a-days.
Yeah.
Used to be a lot different, a lot more grueling. It's still grueling, still hot, but less so. When I started training camp, there was practices like 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, and then like 3:30 to 5:30 at night.
Yeah.
And one of the sessions was in pads. Just you know what? You don't play double headers in football. It makes no sense to do 2-a-days. There was like 40 training camp practices, 45 training camp practices. Now it's more in the 20s. Believe me, it's enough. It's enough.
Yeah.
If you can't get done and finished and be ready for opening day with these training camps, there's something wrong with your team.
Yeah, and it's interesting before we get into this a little bit, but training camp, I do remember growing up in high school, like 2-a-days were a thing. I remember mornings were sometimes walkthrough, afternoons when we put the pads on, that's when the real hitting is going to happen, the real plays are going to be called. And I remember following the reporters, it's like, this awesome play just happened, this sack just happened, they put the pads on, like this is goal line situation. So it's always fun to follow, especially someone like you when Giants training camp's going on and following the play-by-play and seeing who's having a good camp, who's having a struggling camp, some players that might emerge. And this is why it's always a fun time of year, especially for fans, like getting ramped up and seeing how the team is going to develop before the season starts. So just to dive real quick into our first thing that I want to talk about here is the Saquon Barkley situation. My question to you was originally going to be, what's the biggest storyline heading into Giants training camp this year in 2023? It's not the fact that they're putting a logo in midfield on MetLife turf, which I just saw before, by the way. It's the Saquon Barkley situation. So real quick, Paul, let's just dive into this. What's your sense here with Saquon? Obviously, players report on the 25th, the first practice on the 26th of July. How do you see this situation playing right now with Saquon Barkley and the Giants?
First of all, don't undersell that midfield logo. That NY is sweet. That under,
yeah, it is.
Under lowercase NY in script that your fans love. It's on the helmets. That's gonna. I mean, look. There used to be like a Meadowlands logo, right? There was a State of New Jersey logo. There was an NFL logo. I mean, such boring. The stadium's boring enough. You don't need a boring logo at midfield. I know the Jets are unveiling something new, probably in the coming days. They will also have a new Jets logo.
Wow.
Giants NY looks good. But yes, that is fun thing. That's not the biggest storyline of training camp. Look, maybe it won't be a big storyline. Maybe Saquon signs before then, and it's not a big storyline. But then it's just he's back and he's signed, and you talk to him, and everything's triumphant. There's a very good chance Saquon is not signed. I would say a good chance, maybe not a very good chance. I still think cooler heads will prevail or something. There's too much. The Giants love him. I mean, the ownership loves Saquon. Saquon wants to be with the Giants. So if you have those two things, right, then it makes too much sense to do anything but get a deal done. Now, the sticking point is guaranteed money, right? My colleague Ryan Dunleavy reported today that 19.5 million is the most the Giants have offered in a guarantee. That goes with what I'm hearing as well. Look, if the guarantees are 22, 23, 24 million, Saquon's going to take it. He's just going to take it. Look, it's not what it was. It's not Christian McCaffrey money. It's not Derrick Henry money. I think he was at 25 million guaranteed. Yep. It just you can't do that anymore. So you're saying, well, he's as good as those guys. Okay, that's fine. But it just who's next is who gets paid, right? So so don't concentrate too much on 12.5 million, 13 million average. I think something can get done. I know Joe Shane, the GM, is not like losing a lot of sleep over this. He knows he has him on the franchise tag. Look, is Saquon not going to sign the tag and not to report to camp? That's a possibility. That will not do him any good. It will not help him. It will not help him get any more money. And it will. And look, if he sits out a couple of weeks at camp, is it going to bother anybody? No. If he doesn't have a deal, I don't think he's going to think, you know what, I have to be there for my teammates. I'm going to go. Maybe he shows up and says, I'm not going to practice. I'll just be in meetings and things like that. Right. I don't know how that would fly. It just, look, there's a lot of unrest that could happen. And the Giants want to avoid that if possible. We'll see.
Now, real quick, in this situation here with Saquon, he has to sign a long-term extension by Monday, that deadline. And if he doesn't reach a long-term extension, he does have to play on that franchise tag at 10.1 million. Now, the interesting point you bring up here about the 19 million that's guaranteed, it doesn't equate to the two franchise tags. If, let's say, Saquon was franchise tagged again in 2024, that's a total of 22 million guaranteed. It's not reaching that level, Paul. So is there that justification there for Saquon where he's looking at, if you're going to make me play on the franchise tag, I'm going to get more money guaranteed if I played on those two franchise tags than I would if I signed a long-term extension with what you're currently offering me. Does he have that justification there a little bit?
Well, that very often is agents speak, right? They say, okay, this year and next year, the franchise tags, I can't accept any less than that, or I need more than that. You know what, though? If you think of it, okay, let's think of how this could work. Okay, if Saquon was healthy last year, had career high rushing yards, thought he did enough to earn a new contract. Okay. And, the contract's not what he wants at this point. He didn't want the franchise tag. They put the franchise tag on him. I think it's quite a leap of faith to think they would put a franchise tag on him again. Okay. If he gets hurt or he doesn't have a good year, they're not going to guarantee him $12 million next year. They'll just say, okay, it didn't work out. We're moving on. If he has a really good year, then they can say, okay, we're going to put the tag on you. I think at that point, they probably would just try to get a new deal with him done. So yeah, that is a way to think about it. Look, two franchise tags, 22 million. He's got to get at least that, or else it doesn't make sense to sign. That's fine to think that way, but to think that they're going to tag him 2 years in a row doesn't happen that often with many players. I don't think it would happen with Saquon. I think either he plays his way into a new deal or he plays himself off the team.
Yeah. And again, if you're Joe Shane looking at this with Saquon, the situation, you're also going to lower possibly that cap hit if you do to lock him up into a long-term extension, because you're not guaranteeing all that dollar right then and there that would count against the cap. So ultimately, like you said, do you think cooler heads prevail? Do you think honestly Saquon will get a deal done by that Monday deadline as we're recording this?
You can. Right now, he would count 10.1 million on the cap if he signs the franchise tag. If they come to a 3 or 4 year deal, they could probably cut that to 5 or 4 million a year. That's great, but the draft picks are signed. Okay, all the big free agents are signed now. If you're going to tell me, well, they're going to take that extra 5 million and sign DeAndre Hopkins, which they're not, but tell me that, or now somebody shakes loose, or there's an injury in training camp and bang, now we got an extra 5 million to spend. Look, it's always better to have it than to not have it. They're not in great salary cap shape right now. But I don't think, getting under these, getting the number down, like if they had to put the franchise tag on Daniel Jones, that would have destroyed them. 32 million on the cap, that would have destroyed them in free agency. They didn't have to do that. They went through free agency, they signed their draft picks. it's not as crucial now to get that cap number down, but it would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. And it's just, like you said, it's just part of that situation with the running backs now. They're just not being as well valued as they used to. They're not being drafted as high as they used to. And those contracts that I think teams are starting to learn. You know, you look at a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco is their leading rusher. The guy was a 7th-round draft pick. So, like,
you know what, though? I know that.
Go ahead.
I know
go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
But if you tell me Daniel Jones is going to play like Patrick Mahomes this year, okay, if you tell me that, can guarantee, I will say, rescind the franchise tag on Daniel Jones and just pick up somebody else and wing it with
on Saquon Barkley. On Saquon Barkley.
On Saquon Barkley and you know, just go there.
Pick up a Dalvin Cook or something, you know, like.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't think he's going to come real cheap, but he'll come cheaper than 10 million, I think. It's just, yeah, I know Pacheco. I get it. You know, the Giants won 2 Super Bowls with Brandon Jacobs, a 4th-round pick, and Ahmad Bradshaw, a 7th-round pick. I get it. They also had one of the great defensive lines that wreaked havoc on Tom Brady and everyone who came before them. So you tell me the great things about the Giants, and then I'll tell you, okay, they can do without a Saquon Barkley. You know, it's not bad to have a great running back. It really isn't. It really isn't. So,
and he does so much more than just running the ball.
He does. Now, the problem is that Saquon says, I don't need to set the market at running backs, but I think Saquon is hurt that he sees himself as a great running back, a great team guy, a great locker room guy, a great team captain, right? And where's the equity he's getting from that? I think Joe Shane looks at him as a really good player, a great guy, and a great guy, you know what I mean? But he's not going to say, I'm going to give him $3 million for that equity. Now, maybe John Mara steps in, the co-owner, and says, you know what? Saquon wants to be a Giant for life. You know, there's a lot of number 26 jerseys out there, okay? A lot of them. So, a previous general manager broke Mara's grandchildren's heart by trading away Odell Beckham. So he's saying, look, let's just get this done with Saquon. Not that, you know, I think he'll be on the team this year. Let's just get this done. Let's up the ante. I'll approve it. I'm sure Steve Tisch would approve it. You know, we're not going to hold it against you if it's not a great deal.
Yeah. And the situation is going to obviously develop over this weekend. It'll be interesting to see if he reports to camp and if he holds out or if he even doesn't practice. And like you said, that's the biggest storyline right now as we're heading into Giants training camp is what's going to happen with Saquon Barkley if that long-term deal isn't reached by Monday. And then if he does play on the franchise tag, does he decide to hold out or not?
And if he signs 10 minutes after we finish this, we're going to have to can this and you'd have to call me again, right?
No problem. I'll do it. No problem. No, there's nothing else going on, Paul. So this is why we're doing this right now anyway. So, awesome. So that was the biggest storyline, but now I want to talk about the offense here, obviously besides Saquon Barkley, but there's a 2-part here in this segment of the offense. When you look at this offense, the way it's currently constructed, what do you see as the biggest strength of this offense right now, this offensive unit? And then what is the biggest question mark you have on this offensive unit?
Well, I would say the biggest strength generically is the second year in the system. You know what I mean? Other than saying one position or one player, it is that they're back for a second year with expert coaching from Brian Daboll and the offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka. I mean, they did really good things last year. You know, if you look at it, they were a running team. And when that was taken away, they became more of a passing team. So, you know, they're smart guys. You know, they're you know, there's a reason why Mike Kafka interviewed for basically every open head coach availability there was, you know what I mean? And didn't get those jobs, but set him up very nicely at age 35 in his first year ever as an offensive coordinator. You know, he really rose up those charts. He knows what he's doing. So I think that is number one, that, you know, Daniel Jones and Kafka are bang, they're on the same page. They don't have to learn the terminology. They don't have to learn your quirks, my quirks, the way you do things. They know it all. It's going to help everybody. That's a big strength. I think depth at wide receiver is a strength. Now, okay, do they have a great wide receiver? I would say no. Do they have a classic number one receiver? I would say at this point, no. So it's not, you know, a Justin Jefferson, you know, so I'm not ranking them as one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 wide receiver groups in the league. But I think there's a lot of good players. Darius Slayton is a good player. Isaiah Hodgins is a good player. Now, Paris Campbell, you know, could be maybe better than a good player. You know, he's had a, you know, kind of an up and down 3 years with the Colts, and then he had a good year last year. He finally stayed healthy. Jalen Hyatt, the rookie. I'm not expecting huge things from him as a rookie, but he's a big, fast target. So I kind of like what they have at wide receiver. You know, if Sterling Shepard comes back, great. Wan'Dale Robinson, if he comes back, great. You know, they expect these guys back at some point. And I would say a feature guy is what Darren Waller. I mean, obviously the tight end. If he stays healthy, look, even if he doesn't stay healthy, he's every bit of 6'6". You know, he is just he looks like a power forward in basketball, really, in shorts and a t-shirt. He was a great player for the Raiders in 2019 and 2020. Not a good player, a great player. Then the past 2 years, he was not a great player because he had a bunch of issues and hamstring strains, and he missed a lot of time. If the Giants are getting the player from 19 and 20, he's the most dynamic player on the team. And then if Saquon's there, now you got something cooking. So I like that as far as strengths. As far as you said, concerns, what year is it? What year is this?
It's 2023.
Okay. Concerns, offensive line. Okay. 2022, offensive line. 2020, offensive line. You know, you're 31 years old. Not that back that far, but for a lot of years, if you would ask me concerns, offensive line, I still think it's a concern.
Yeah.
Right now, if you ask me, who is the one certainty? Who are the certainties on the offensive line? I would say
Andrew Thomas, your left tackle.
Andrew Thomas, left tackle. I'll say, but what about Mike Lewinsky at right guard? Yeah, he's okay. You know, he's okay. He's serviceable. You know, is he going to be a Pro Bowler? No. You know, he's a sturdy guy. He's a stopgap guy. There are questions everywhere. You know, they drafted John Michael Schmitz in the second round to start at center. He's 320 pounds. He's 6'4". He spent 6 years at the University of Minnesota in a Big Ten weight room. He looks it, you know, he's 24 years old. He's like the same age as Andrew Thomas, basically.
Yeah.
And he's just coming into the league. So he looks ready to play, but he's a rookie. He will have growing pains. He's a rookie. That's all there is to it. He's going to be facing monsters like Dexter Lawrence in practice, and then guys like that in game. So it will be an adjustment for him. Evan Neal, second-year right tackle. He's a question mark. I'm sorry. He was the seventh pick in the draft last year, but he had an up and down rookie year. I think he'll get it, but he's a question mark. Left guard, Josh Izudu, Shane Lemieux. That's a question mark. So right now, offensive line, I think they're getting better. They were better last year than they were the year before. Their center is gone. You know, it was John Feliciano last year. He's with, I guess, the 49ers now, right? So, you know, I think offensive line is a question mark. And as we know, if that is a question mark, then Daniel Jones is a question mark, and Saquon Barkley is a question mark, and Waller and all these receivers I talked about, they're all question marks because nothing gets going if the offensive line is no good. So this training camp and will be interesting to see who lines up where and how they, you know, get the starting lineup set. And then when the real tests come, you know, these guys got, you know, if the Giants want to get really, really better and be serious contenders, the offensive line has to be not just okay, it has to be better than that.
Yeah, I think you bring up two interesting points there when you talk about the offensive line. I mean, they did invest a lot of high-end draft capital when you think about Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas, and John Mitchell-Smith. In this at the center position. So you're talking about three high-end picks that are your bookend tackles and your center. It's your guards positions that I am interested in seeing. Like, do you feel comfortable there in the middle? But if that unit can gel, then this offense can take that next step, and Saquon can have more rushing lanes, and they can have more time for Daniel Jones to have a passing attack. So other thing that I noticed there we talked about is the wide receiver depth. They don't have a clear number one. So when you look at them and you look at a Jamison Crowder, a Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins had a lot of touchdowns, but it's can that be used every single game? Can you rely on these guys to produce enough? If you Darren Waller, let's say, isn't, you know, he's the number one threat that they're looking at for defenses that we got to stop him and Saquon, and we feel comfortable of you know, controlling this offense, or, you know, stop slowing down this offense. Do you feel that's good enough though, with the depth that you say they have at wide receiver, to still be able to have enough production?
Well, you mentioned Isaiah Hodgins had a lot of touchdowns, right? No one had a lot of touchdowns. Okay. What do you have, 5? Daniel Jones threw 15 touchdown passes and he got $160 million contract. You know, there's something out of whack there. You know,
relatively speaking, in the terms of amount of touchdowns Daniel Jones threw, Isaiah Hodgins did have a third of them.
That's what I mean. But yeah. You know, a lot is, double digits. You know what I mean? I mean,
I hear
Darren
you.
Waller had a year where he had, but I think he had 9 his best year. I mean, that's what they need from Waller in the tight ends. If all these ifs don't come to fruition, I mean, if Waller is just okay, and can't shake the injury bug, and I think that's what a lot of people looking at the Giants are saying, they're not a lot better than they were last year because they didn't sign that stud. They didn't draft a running back in the first round. Now in the second round, high in the second round, they were considering John Michael Schmitz and Jalen Hyatt. And, they were, so that's good for Hyatt. Not good that he didn't go until the third round, but it's good that they consider him a high second round talent, and they traded up in the third round to get him, but these are rookies. I can't stress enough.
Yeah.
Rookies, you always have to have a caveat with rookies. Most of them have an adjustment period. They just do. It's a different game. It might not be enough. I'm banking on scheme, Daniel Jones being better, and they can get guys open. I mean, I think Kafka and Dable can figure out a way to get guys open. Now, it's better if a guy can get open by himself, or see, this was the big.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm trying to hammer
Kenny
you here
Galladay.
a little bit. Yeah,
that was the crime with Kenny Galladay. Is he was a guy signed by Dave Gettleman to throw it to him even if he's not open. Okay,
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know if the Giants have many guys. You can throw it to Darren Waller if he's not open.
Right.
If you get a good throw, he's
an elite pass catcher. Absolutely.
You can throw it to him. Maybe Daniel Bellinger, who's got good size. But I think Daniel Bellinger is a guy who you have to scheme him a little bit. He's not going to be that uber talented. He's just going to just throw it to him. He's not, he's not Travis Kelce kind of thing. But they're smart guys. The system will work. I think Paris Campbell can kind of be a lineup in the running back, be a little bit of jet sweep guy, So I think he's an X factor. I really do. I think Paris Campbell is a little bit of an X factor as far as they can do a little bit of Deebo Samuel stuff with him. Now, the headline shouldn't be he's their Deebo Samuel. No. It's that maybe there's a little something there that they can work with, more versatility. Look, the coaching has to be really good because the talent is there, but it's not there, in spades. It's there, but It's not crazy.
Right. And I guess that was the only thing I was just really questioning on is that the depth is there. There are a lot of pieces. I actually like Jamison Crowder, especially a guy who's played under Daboll at Buffalo. Like he's been in that system. So it's going to be interesting to see how he schemes up these players because like you said, there is no clear cut number one there. There is no guy you're going to go out there as like a Justin Jefferson. He's going to get open no matter what. And you're going to be able to throw the ball at him on third down. But hopefully that's what a Darren Waller can turn into is your go-to guy on those big situations when you get in a third down, maybe red zone and he becomes that premier target for them. All right, so that's offense, but let's get to the defense now. They invested another first-round pick in the defense. Wink Martindale did not take a head coaching job, even though he was interviewing for multiple positions, or I should say the Colts position. I know of that one, but strength and biggest question mark on this defensive unit. What do you got?
Well, look, strength is how the Giants won their past 2 Super Bowls and how they how they won them in 86 and 90 up front. It's up front that counts, and the Giants have a really good front group. They really do. Dexter Lawrence was going to be re-signed. He's one of the highest paid defensive tackles in the league right now. He had like 40 pressures last year as an interior lineman. He had a great year. I mean, you talk about a guy who cashed in on a contract year. I mean, he had a great year. All you have to do is walk up to Dexter Lawrence in a locker room, and he's just a barrel. He's a barrel of a man. He's a really good guy. He stayed healthy. He plays his butt off, so he deserved to get paid. Now, Leonard Williams has to stay healthy. Leonard Williams has been the Iron Man of Iron Men in his 8 or 9 years with the Jets and now with the Giants, right?
Yep.
But last year showed some chinks in that armor. Had some injuries, had a neck issue. He said is better, but he didn't have surgery. It was rest. That can't, that's a problem. So it needs to, he's going to have to wear some kind of a role. That can't be a recurring issue. He's a really good player when he's on the field. And now you have the 2 guys outside. Azeez Ojulari had one of the highest sacks per pass rush attempt in the league last year. Okay. His problem was he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
It's from training camp. He arrived in training camp. I think he hurt a calf a quad I think he had a hamstring issue.
Something like that. I remember. Yeah.
Before camp. So he was
Yeah.
sidelined coming into camp. Then it was a quad. Then it was a calf. He had no luck at all. So he had 5.5 sacks in 7 games. This is a big year for him. He has to stay healthy. When he stays healthy, he will get sacks. He's a good player. He looks like he looks really good. He said he's done some things differently in his workout regime. He's got to stay loose and flexible. These soft tissue injuries are just not acceptable. Calves and hamstring, you look, injuries are injuries, right? I mean, Aaron Judge with the Yankees freaking ran into a concrete wall and did something to his toe. Okay, that's a toe and a concrete wall.
Right.
The concrete wall is going to win. That's not a soft tissue injury. That's a hard concrete wall injury. Right. So injuries happen, but soft tissue stuff, if that's recurring, it's a problem. And Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, had a surprising rookie year. You would ask me 4 sacks, I would say less than I thought. Right? Not great. The first half of the year, he had like nothing in the sack department. But he was a better player than I thought he was going to be as a rookie. Not a better pass rusher, a better player. Better in coverage, better in run pursuit, better in cerebral, long arms, dissecting the play, being a team player, sacrificing himself so maybe another guy will get the pass rush. All high marks for Kayvon. So that's really good. That's probably better than being a 1-note 8-sack guy and he doesn't really do much else. I mean, Wink Martindale loves the guy.
Yeah.
And so, for a rookie, much more aware than most rookies. So that's all great stuff. Now he's got to get stronger and up his game with the pass rush. And now you got something up front. I think those are the real strengths. Look, this run defense was like 25th in the league last year, almost 145 yards a game. Not good with a really good front group. Okay. Now they've addressed that with Bobe Okereke, which I think is the right way to say it.
Okereke.
Okereke. That's better. Okereke. Okay.
Or actually, it's Okereke. I should have messed. I messed that up too.
That is Okereke.
Okereke.
Yes.
Okereke.
Yes.
Everyone used to call him Okereke.
Yeah, because I remember he had a great game against the Giants, and it sounded like they were saying "carrot cake." So that's what it is.
Okereke, Bobby Okereke.
He's a leader. He had 150 tackles last year for the Colts, so he should help the run defense a lot. That has to be better. The guys up front, the linebackers, which they need more production there. That's what I would be bullish on there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like you said, 100, it's a lot of yards they give up in a rushing game, against opposing rushing teams. That's something that I paid attention to. Strengthening up the secondary, though, I thought was a big move for them, getting another corner in Deonte Banks. What do you make of him? Just real quick on this, looking at this secondary, another year for Xavier McKinney. That could be a potential strength, I feel like, especially for Wink Martindale, who loves blitzing and loves putting those corners on islands sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be a potential strength, but right now I would call it a concern. Okay. Because, I like to look at what are your sure things. Okay.
Yeah.
Your sure things are Adoree Jackson, who, let's face it, is kind of a 1A or a 2 cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a really good second starting cornerback. Is he a shutdown number 1 Sauce Gardner type player? He is not. He really is not. He's a good player. He doesn't intercept the ball. He's a good player. So it's like the receivers almost. He's a good player. He can start in the NFL, but he's not a difference maker in my mind. Okay. You want him on your team, but not as your number 1 cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you have, as you mentioned, Xavier McKinney, who needs to stay healthy, had that bad hand injury last year, needs to stay healthy. Also needs to get his hand on the ball more. He is a, sideline to sideline guy, cerebral guy, a really smart guy in Wink Martindale's defense. So I would say those are 2 guys who are, yes, you can count on them. Let's face it,
sure things you're talking about.
Pro Bowl yet, but sure thing kind of guys, although maybe not all pro sure things right now, but sure things. Now you mentioned Deonte Banks. I think the guy could be terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 6'2", long arms, really athletic. I think has ball skills, although he doesn't have a ton of interceptions. Will play man coverage definitely, and will tackle. will definitely tackle. He is not a small guy. So that's, Wink Martindale, I know, thinks he is what he is looking for as a man coverage guy in his system. But he's a rookie. Okay. He's a first round pick, but he's a rookie. He will struggle. Okay. Wink Martindale said, he was quoting Ted Lasso and said he needs to be a goldfish, right?
Short-term memory. That's right.
Short-term memory.
That's right.
Deontay Banks did not watch Ted Lasso, didn't know what that meant, but he thinks he is he's a cornerback. He gets it. I get beat, I go on to the next play. That's what he says. Easier to say, harder to do. But he is he has to start, he has to start. He has to work his way into that position very quickly or immediately. But he is a question because he's a rookie. That's all. He just is. And now don't forget, they did not re-sign Julian Love.
Yeah.
They wanted to, and they gave him a good deal. And he got what Joe Schoen felt was less money to go to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure in some way, shape, or form, it could be perceived that he got more money from the Seahawks, maybe in the short term, but he went to the Seahawks. Okay. So now who is your other starting safety? Who is it?
Bobby McCain?
Maybe. Is it Nick McLeod, who moved from cornerback to safety? Is it Jason Pinnock,
from the Jets,
who could get the job, certainly. But, these are not household names. These are not guys, just plug him in. Julian Love was a guy I would say, yep, you go run it back with Julian Love. He's a versatile, smart guy. Plug him and play him. Plug him in and play him. You can't say that right now. Yeah. And now, just almost really as important, not almost as important, who is the nickel cornerback? Is it Cordell Flott? Is it Aaron Robinson? Is it Rodarius Williams? I don't know. You know what I mean? So there are questions there. Yeah. There aren't like plug, one question. There are questions there. So right now, that is not a position of great strength right now. I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah. And I think obviously with great coaching, same thing we brought up about the offense, great coaching with Wink Martindale, scheme it up and you can hide some of those weaknesses sometimes. And like you said, it's gonna be a lot of, especially on Deontay Banks, put you on that island as a man and a lot of man coverage. You gotta forget about that play and move on to the next one. It's going to be really interesting to see how that defensive unit takes that next step. I'm really interested to see how Kayvon Thibodeau progresses this year. I think I really do believe he can be a double-digit sack guy. I really do.
Well, he has to be. I mean, can he get 8 or 9? That's fine. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, he's the 5th pick in the draft. Yeah. I mean, he's an edge rusher. He has to rush the edge and I'm not down on him at all.
No.
But he went, and it was interesting because at there were concerns about him when they were looking into drafting him. His attitude, how hard he plays all the time. Does he want to be too much of a star and maybe not a great player? He had that LA kind of, motif to him. And they specifically asked him, challenged him. They asked him, I think Daboll was the one who asked him, you go your first 5 games of your NFL career without a sack and the media is on your ass about it. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with it?
Right.
And that's pretty much what happened. He missed his first 2 games. He didn't have a lot of sacks early. And, we were questioning whether, where's the sacks? Where's the sack? He handled it really well. He really did.
He did.
He handled it well. So he answered it well in the pre-draft stuff. He answered it last year. Now the key is don't have to ask him those questions because he's getting those sacks.
Right. And don't have to answer questions about who Jeff Saturday is too. Let's go on to our next thing here. Daniel Jones, want to talk a little bit about him here. Signed a big extension this offseason, right? Because we talked about Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley going into this offseason, the 2 deals that could possibly be getting done, and how would it go about for the Giants, and how would they handle it? Would they franchise Daniel Jones and sign Saquon, or franchise Saquon and sign Daniel Jones? They went with that route of signing Daniel Jones to a long-term extension. Going into year 2 in Ryan Daboll's system, we talked about 15 touchdown passes. He obviously had a bunch of rushing touchdowns as well, but looking into this system and the pieces that have been surrounded on him and Daboll as his head coach, what are your expectations for Daniel Jones heading into year 2 with Brian Daboll?
Higher, a lot higher. Look, at last year at this time, I was not optimistic that this was all going to work out. And yet another new system for Daniel Jones going into a contract year. He's ticked off that they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on him. I know he was ticked off about that. He had a lot of hills to climb. He really did. He had to stay healthy. Don't forget, the year before, he missed the last 6 games with a neck injury. Yep. He had to stay healthy. He had to be productive. He had to win. He had to, acclimate to the new offense, master the new offense, convince Joe Shane and Brian Daboll that he could be the answer moving forward. And he did that, right? He did it. He played in all the games. He was, he ran great with the ball. His interceptions were really low. Now, as you said, the 15 touchdowns, they just got to go up. That's all. I mean, he doesn't have to have 40, but he's got to approach 30, I think, approach it, high 20s. They just have to go up. I think they had the fewest plays of 20 or more yards in the league last year. No good. No good. You know what I mean? That can't happen. You don't have to lead the league. You don't have to lead the league in that, but you can't be at the bottom of the league. You can't have 8 or 9, 10 play 75-yard drives. It just too many things can go wrong. Guy gets tripped up. You miss it by a foot on third down. You got to have some big plays. You just have to. So Daniel Jones has got to throw the ball in the end zone more. He has to actually take more risks. Last year, I thought he was maybe not very, but he was certainly conservative at times. It was ingrained in his head. Don't lose the ball. Don't throw an interception. And he did those things, but you take a little away in your aggressiveness there. Plus, you didn't have that receiver, as we said. Just throw it up to him; he'll make the play. Eli Manning did that with Plaxico Burress a lot, and paid great dividends. I'll throw it up to him, and either no one catches it or Plaxico catches it. Not a lot of those choices with Daniel Jones. A little bit with Isaiah Hodgins. That was about it last year. So they hope Waller can be that guy, certainly. So I expect more from Daniel Jones. He's going to hit the ground running as far as knowing the offense. They can do more. Now, what I would think less of Daniel Jones is a little less running. It's a recipe for disaster for a guy to run that much. Okay. If you have a design bootleg, bang, run out of bounds or slide. Now, he is not a graceful slider at all. He is not. You see Russell Wilson slide, Kyler Murray slide. Yep. I mean, bang, they slide. It's beautiful. Slide up, down, they're up, great. When Daniel slides, he kind of like collapses. He actually got hurt a couple of years ago while sliding. I think his foot stuck a little bit. He hurt I don't know if it was his hamstring or his ankle, so less. Use it judiciously. You got to, the little bit of that Jalen Hurts now, 4th and 1, you want a quarterback sneak it. He's a big dude. He's a big dude, Daniel Jones. Great. But I think a steady diet of, 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s, he's going to run and take hits. No good. You can run out of bounds. You can slide. Great. Too many hits is not going to work for anybody. So stay on the field, stay healthy, more production. But he's a smart guy, and in this system in year 2, they will do more. They will definitely do more things.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Brian Daboll unlocks that full potential of Daniel Jones in that system, because I always go back to how Josh Allen was developed under Daboll in Buffalo. He progressively got better year after year after year, and I'm not saying Daniel Jones is Josh Allen, but there's physical talent there for Daniel Jones. And I just would like to see that potential be unlocked in that second year now, especially if you're getting paid as one of the top quarterbacks. Like you said, you're expecting more from him straight up this year. Let's wrap this whole thing up here for this Giants training camp preview. Paul Schwartz, New York Post Giants beat reporter. What is the player you're looking forward to most covering this training camp?
There is no way I'm giving you one. I'm not giving you one player. I'm not, because I can't. I mean, look, if you said to me, we only have time to give me one player, okay, I'm going to give you more than one, because I actually wrote a list down. I did some research here.
Okay.
We mentioned a bunch of them. I might say Paris Campbell.
Okay.
Because, I might say him because, look, the rookies are the rookies. I'm very interested in watching the rookies, but they're rookies. Paris Campbell is a guy who they need to, he's on a 1-year contract. At this time next year, he could be in a 3-year contract with the Giants, or he could be on another team. He's got talent. Like I said, 3 years of injuries, freak injuries with the Colts. I mean, he's one of those Ohio State stud receivers. You know what I mean? He's fast. He's really fast. So I'm really anxious to see, how good is this guy? You know what I mean? Is he going to be a number 1A, 2 weapon? He can be. He really can be. He can play in the slot. I think he can play outside. Like I said, jet sweeps. You can hand the ball off to him. So I'm really interested in seeing him because he's one of those guys. I mean, I've seen Isaiah Hodgins. Can he get better? Sure. I've seen 4 years of Darius Slayton. I like him. He's a good vertical threat. Can he get better? Yeah. But I think I know what he brings. Right. I don't know what Paris Campbell brings. I don't now the Colts, he had a good year for the Colts and they did not make a big push to re-sign him. So I don't know what that tells me. I don't know what that tells me. It tells me that they didn't make a big push to sign him. So that's the one guy. I mean, I'm gonna keep my eyes on Waller all the time. You're getting more than
I was
one
gonna
guy.
say, yeah.
Jalen Hyatt obviously is a rookie. I like his speed. I'm going to watch him. Now, here's a guy we didn't mention, Eric Gray, the rookie running back from Oklahoma. If Saquon is not at camp, right, that's a lot of carries that goes to someone else. Do I need to see a lot of Matt Breida this training camp? I do not, because we know nothing against him. We know what he can do.
What he can do.
Well, fine. So, it is not crazy to think that a rookie can come in at running back and run the ball and catch the ball as long as he can pass protect. Ahmad Bradshaw did it at the end of his rookie year, and he was a 7th round pick. So Eric Gray, he carried the ball a lot at Oklahoma. Rookies can do it, so he'll be interesting to see. That's a position where they can play. On defense, the one guy I'll mention is Darian Beavers. Okay, he was going to be in position to challenge for a starting job last year at inside linebacker as a 6th round pick from Cincinnati. Okay, not make the team. He could have potentially started alongside, back at the time, Blake Martinez, okay, who's, retired and then, went elsewhere and then, is now out of football. Beavers is a good specimen. He tore his ACL, I believe, in the 2nd preseason game. Just murder, just awful for a young guy. He's back, he looks good in the spring. He's a guy, now they lost Jared Davis to a knee injury. Yeah. He had knee surgery. Might be the season, might not be. He's certainly not going to be ready anytime soon. That inside linebacker position, is it Micah McFadden? Is it Darian Beavers? We'll see, we'll see. Beavers, I think, could be a very interesting guy for Wink Martindale. I'm going to keep an eye on him.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. That's who Paul's looking forward to seeing. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Darren Waller light it up in training camp. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to cover. Paul, that's a training camp preview, man. You excited? You ready to go now?
It's my 30th year, I mean, as we mentioned, yes, look, training camp, it's a grind. It's hot. I wear a big floppy, like Indiana Jones kind of hat to keep the sun off me. You just got to do it. You're in survival mode. But, there are certain things where I look at and say, oh man, this is overplayed. This is overplayed. Now, every single day of training camp, this guy got beat. This guy made a great catch. The red zone offense struggled today. That stuff is stuff to chronicle, but you can't get too hot and bothered over that. There are some drills literally in training camp that are designed for the defense to dominate. They have running drills where literally everyone knows they're running. Give us your best shot. It's not going to be pretty for the offense and the offensive line. You can't get crazy when it's not pretty for the offensive line. But this stuff matters. Staying healthy matters. I've seen bad training camps lead to bad opening games. I've seen it. And I've seen good training camps lead to better opening games. So it's important, as they go through this. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, like I said, Paul, he's covering the Giants. It's going to be his 30th year in training camp. You can read all of his stuff at the New York Post. He's going to be on the Blue Rush podcast again. You can listen to him there. We appreciate you as always, man, for giving us all your time and insight on this entire team, man.
All right, Ryan, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, brother.